Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more. Coming to Dallas, Texas, September 14th, 15th, and 16th, 2018, the Blockchain and Future Tech Expo. This is going to be a gigantic conference of over 5,000 people. We're going to be talking about blockchain and its applications. We're going to be talking about quantum computing, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and several other future technologies that are poised to and actually changing our lives as we speak. Here's why you should attend. As you may know, early adopters are the ones that investigated and profited from things like the gold rush in the 1800s, from the dot-com boom in the 1990s, from the internet boom in 2005, from the smartphone explosion in 2007, from the real estate boom that ended in 2008, and of course, from the Bitcoin boom that started in 2012. Early adopters act now. They don't wait till later. They go out west first, in their covered wagons. They find the biggest gold nuggets. If you consider yourself an early adopter and you want to find the biggest nuggets, then you owe it to yourself to attend this upcoming conference. Blockchain is going to affect how we control and store our medical data, how we send money around the world, how we bank, and more. But artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and cybersecurity will play a pivotal role in our lives as well. And that's why our next event, September 14th to the 16th at the Dallas Convention Center, is going to have not only 5,000 plus attendees, but will showcase blockchain, AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, and more. You want to get in on the coming gold rush of future tech and opportunity as an early adopter. Don't be left out. To register, go to bftexpo.com. That's Blockchain Future Tech Expo.com. Thank you. Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with Future Tech Podcast. My guest today is Jim Borzilleri, the founder of Ominex, Ominex. Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Richard. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, I always start off with like the toughest question. Tell me about Ominex. What do you guys do?
Sure. So, we are actually the team behind CrowdEngine. We're the leading white label equity crowdfunding solution in the U.S. And Ominex is our new blockchain spinoff, which takes advantage of the compliance experience we have over the last 4 years and adds our compliance services to the blockchain. So we specialize in providing KYC and investor accreditation services on our platform so that token sellers can use our system as a complete user management system for a token sale.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've talked to a bunch of outfits that are doing token generation events or SAFs or token sales. They call them different things, and a lot say they can only deal with accredited investors in the U.S., for instance. How do you vet someone to make sure that they're accredited? I'm just curious about that.
Sure. So the U.S. accreditation laws basically state that you have to make at least $100,000 per year, or that you have a net worth of at least $1 million, excluding your primary residence. And so basically there's a couple different ways that you can verify an investor's status as an accredited investor. Typically, the number one way is to get a third-party affidavit from a CPA or attorney, stating that they are familiar with the investor and that they certify that they are accredited. Or there are platforms that allow you to upload financial documents and or proof of income and debt ratios. Or there are also third-party services that basically do it manually. Ominex supports all of the different methods, and we allow our clients to choose which ones they want to use. Typically, it's the lawyers who decide.
Okay, makes sense. And then you said you came from an equity crowdfunding background. With token sales, doesn't look like anyone wants to give any equity token sales. And how is the new environment different? What was it like before? What's it like now?
Sure, absolutely. Well, we are seeing clients that are doing equity with tokens kind of as the bonus kicker. So depending on your percentage of the equity, you're also getting tokens. However, the majority, you're right, are not offering equity. They're offering tokens, which are functioning as security instruments. And so our experience is in the Jobs Act regulations, Reg D 506C, Reg A Plus, and Reg CF, and that's the experience that we have over the last few years. And those rules are basically what is being applied to token sales. So the Jobs Act basically changed the 70-year-old securities rules to allow general solicitation, obviously with some restrictions like accredited investors or investment maximums. But we've been doing that for years and are very familiar with those and have leveraged that into the Ominex platform.
Do you think that token sellers today are making a mistake by trying to go with this new model? Would it be better if they just stuck to the not even old rules, but new old rules with equity crowdfunding, or what's your opinion?
So it's an interesting environment at the moment. We work with all sorts of different clients. The norm has been, since the SEC has put the guidance out there, that basically most tokens that they see are considered securities. The majority of the markets basically just block the United States. So our solution allows our clients to not block the United States and do it in a compliant manner under any of the existing regulations. I think, there's definitely room for new regulations. I think there's a gray area between security and utility tokens where there is some crossover and a lack of guidance today. Our team is working with the rest of the world to try to get some more guidance there. But for now, it's a pretty, it's pretty much a utility token or security token. And if you're going to do a utility token in the United States, it's a very tough environment given the lack of guidance.
So what do you think is going to happen with with tokens? I mean, it looks like the SEC is issuing dozens of subpoenas, and I've heard hearsay, but it sounds like the head of the SEC and CFTC are saying, they say all tokens are security tokens. What's your guess on what might happen?
Yeah, I'm not an attorney, but there's quite a bit of interesting information out there in terms of the statements from the SEC. There's a lot of quotes saying they see that everywhere, but I think they're being pretty clear in saying that there is such a thing as a utility token. Obviously, some of the guidance there said that it has to have functioning utility when it's being sold. It can't have an emphasis on being traded or exchanged or increasing in value. There's numerous other factors there that contribute to the gray area between security and utility tokens. So in terms of, I think there's task force looking at this now, and I think there is room for potentially some new regulations between the utility and security tokens, and whether if that's an equity play or utility play, that remains to be seen. I think most of the work that's been going out there, the enforcement actions that are ongoing now with the subpoenas, are really looking at tokens that have already been sold that should have been securities before any of this guidance was put out there. And your guess is as good as mine as what's going to happen there, if they're going to slap hands or do things worse. I'm not really sure, but it's an interesting environment for sure. So what we do is we make sure our clients play by the rules. So we offer a suite of KYC, investor accreditation, subscription agreement signings under the regulations, and pretty much focus on the security tokens in the U.S. Basically, the way that works is you use one of the existing regulations here in the U.S., most commonly Reg D 506C, which allows general solicitation on the internet, banner ads, billboards on the side of the freeway. You can promote it any which way you want. However, you can only accept accredited investors. And so that is under Reg D 506C in the U.S., and then we use Reg S for international investors. And so what that means basically is you can promote your token, but people have to follow those rules. They have to sign subscription agreements, obviously pass KYC, et cetera. So that's pretty much what our specialty is. Like I said, we've been doing that for years and have a very smooth process here at Ominex.
What do you see that companies need most of all? What are they lacking that your platform provides, what's the most difficult parts of the KYC or the token generation events or, the things that they're doing?
Sure. There's lots of different KYC providers out there, but there's not really any platforms that combine all the aspects that are needed to do a compliant security token sale. So that's our specialty basically, is we have a platform that is a turnkey platform and works out of the gate and provides all those services. So from an investor standpoint, from an issuer standpoint, you can come to us and get everything in one stop. From an investor standpoint, they can do everything in one streamlined checkout. So they don't have to, learn how to cut and paste hash codes and wallet addresses and all that. We've made it as easy as basically shopping online, and so that's what we do.
Okay. Well, I know you make it easy, but what are the, where do you see companies falling down or needing help most of all?
So, we get a lot of calls in the beginning, obviously, from people who don't understand the regulations, and so we provide a lot of guidance to our clients. In terms of that, obviously, the most difficult one right now is, should I block the U.S. if I'm a utility token? Should I be a security token just to comply with the U.S. rules? So there's a lot of, uncertainty around which way to go as a token issuer. And we provide, obviously, some worksheets and formulas to be able to see how risky that would be in the U.S. To date, we have not done a utility token in the U.S. We've only done Reg D 506C security tokens. But we provide a lot of guidance there, so I think our clients benefit the most there. They're not sure which way to go and how it all works, and part of our consultative approach is to help them figure that out, working with their attorneys and then providing the platform to proceed.
Is anyone pursuing an equity share model, or is everyone just going with purely with tokens?
We're working on a couple deals where it's equity, and there's obviously been other Reg D 506C deals not on our platform that have done it as a fund, with net asset values, and so I would consider those, traditional models being offered through a token. Right now, our current clients are not offering equity, but we are in dialogue with several that are looking at doing it as a incentive to the equity. So you're doing an equity deal and you're getting tokens on top of it.
I've heard that KYC is expensive. I don't know what expensive means, but I've heard this process can be very onerous and very expensive. Is it, what makes it so difficult or so expensive, and how does your platform help mitigate the cost or the ease of using it?
Sure. So KYC is available from several different providers out there. We work with all of them. It's typically around $1.50 to $2 per investor or per token purchaser, and many of the different KYC providers out there try to sell you 10 or 20,000 at a time up front. So that's where the perception of expensive gets. We pass through KYC at cost right now. We have a different pricing model, and we are working on building our own KYC to actually remove the cost for KYC. So the Ominex business model is to remove the barriers of fees, including KYC, AML, accreditation, and document signing from our platform, and we're raising capital to do that so that more blockchain projects can get funded.
Yeah, and what's the overall pricing of your platform? Do you have different levels, or I'm sure it depends on circumstance, but can you give any ballparks?
Sure. So, there's usually a setup fee of $10,000 to $25,000, depending if you're a utility token or a security token, and there are the KYC fees passed through at cost. So, typically those are the first two fees, and then for our services, we look to get a percentage of the tokens and raise, because we believe in taking the risk with our clients and not charging all the upfront fees. A lot of our competitors charge several $100,000 as an initial fee. We're 1/10 of that right now, and obviously we have a very strong platform, being the guys behind CrowdEngine for the last 4 years. We understand how all this works. Again, our long-term goal is to remove all those fees, which is what our token sale is about, the Ominex token.
Do you have any, advice or recommendations for companies that want to do a token sale? At some point sounds like they should talk to you and work with you, but any way to prepare themselves the right way, or things they should or shouldn't do, when contemplating
token sale?
Oh, sure. Where do I start? Typically, though, we work with entrepreneurs that have a vision for their tokens already. So it really becomes a question of what that vision is, right? There are many of our clients are clear-cut security instrument, and so those are really easy. They contact us, and they don't have any doubts about which way they're going to go with their token. And I think really I would just encourage game-changing products over picking the model that you're going to sell from. At the end of the day, we support both utility and security tokens in the U.S. and internationally. So I think for us, the recommendations are make it a good project. We have project criteria that are published on our website for the type of projects that we're looking for. We're not just looking for projects that are using tokens to basically raise capital without using blockchain for something that's disruptive. So primarily, looking for valuable projects that way. In terms of advice, obviously, I would recommend everybody stays within the confines of the law and does things compliantly, both domestically and internationally, when they do perform their token generation event.
Is there a safe haven city or country or place from which people can do token sales, or is that really a fantasy?
Yeah, I mean, the way the securities works, there really isn't a safe haven because the securities laws applies to the investor's country of residence. So even if you're an offshore company selling to U.S. investors, you need to play by the U.S. laws, and the same applies to any other country. And obviously there's countries that are not safe havens that have banned token generation events or ICOs, and those are definitely not on the list. But it's really a complicated matter and one that we're focused on solving. We've created the Open Compliance Project, which is available at opencomplianceproject.org, to help map out the regulatory environment around the world. And so when you go there, you can see a world map, and it's color-coded, and you can drill down to each country and see what the rules are because it's a multi-jurisdictional play. It's not where the issuer is based. It's where the investor is based. And so obviously, marketing on the Internet gets everybody from around the world, and you have to be compliant in every country that you offer security tokens in. And that's something we have experience with at CrowdEngine. We have something called the Compliance Engine, which is basically a rules-based engine based on your country of residence that applies those rules. And so Ominex obviously has the same technology and basically changes the investing process based on the profile of the investor. So depending on what country they're from, they're either not allowed to continue or they have to go down a path of compliance for their particular country. So it's much more complicated than where the issuer sits. It's 195 countries of investors.
Okay, gotcha.
Make sense?
So what's the best way for people to get in touch with Ominex and to find out about using your platform? And at what stage should they do it? Should they do this right off the bat before they're, even part of the way down the road for their token event, or do they need to just wait till the end? What's your recommendation?
So absolutely, thanks for asking. We can be found at ominex.com, OMINEX.com, and typically we work with clients who are pretty well along the way and have, a website, a draft, close to final white paper, and depending on their business model, a smart contract in the final stages of development. So forgot to mention that we also work with SAFs, which are basically security pre-sales of utility tokens here in the U.S., and they're a very popular method. We see a lot of those coming through the door because it enables companies to basically fund a utility token or a security token before actually having, built the smart contract and everything else. So it really depends on what stage you're at, but typically, the plan has to be underfoot and close to the raising process when we engage.
Any recommendations on the length of a token sale or a SAFT? Any other tweaks that you've seen through your experience and what works better or what doesn't?
Sure. Well, on the SAFs, it's pretty much pretty standardized agreements. There's a few different versions floating out there right now that most of the attorneys are working with. In terms of the length of the sale, we see it across the board. Typically, it really depends on the company's marketing abilities, but they're typically a couple months long is what we're seeing, whether it's a SAFT or a token generation event.
All right. Any other recommendations on how a company can do their sale right versus not right based on all your experience?
Sure. I mean, I definitely would recommend getting the advice of good counsel and working with a compliance platform to make sure that your investors are put through the right compliance processes so that you as a token seller can obviously stay out of hot water and keep the funds that you raise.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, Jim, thanks for coming. And, people should go to Ominex.com if they need help. And I appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure, Richard. Thank you.
Coming to Dallas, Texas, September 14th, 15th, and 16th, 2018, the Blockchain and Future Tech Expo. This is going to be a gigantic conference of over 5,000 people. We're going to be talking about blockchain and its applications. We're going to be talking about quantum computing, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and several other future technologies that are poised to and actually changing our lives as we speak. Here's why you should attend. As you may know, early adopters are the ones that investigated and profited from things like the gold rush in the 1800s, from the dot-com boom in the 1990s, from the internet boom in 2005, from the smartphone explosion in 2007, from the real estate boom that ended in 2008, and of course, from the Bitcoin boom that started in 2012. Early adopters act now. They don't wait till later. They go out west first. In their covered wagons, they find the biggest gold nuggets. If you consider yourself an early adopter and you want to find the biggest nuggets, then you owe it to yourself to attend this upcoming conference. Blockchain is going to affect how we control and store our medical data, how we send money around the world, how we bank, and more. But artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and cybersecurity will play a pivotal role in our lives as well. And that's why our next event, September 14th to the 16th at the Dallas Convention Center, is going to have not only 5,000 plus attendees, but will showcase blockchain, AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, and more. You want to get in on the coming gold rush of future tech and opportunity as an early adopter. Don't be left out. To register, go to bftexpo.com. That's blockchainfuturetechexpo.com. Thank you. You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.